You follow me, you may skirt right up off that.
I,
That's the problem with me. I'm gonna work myself. I'm gonna work on it. I promise.
it's all good.
Welcome to Lovely Esteem. I'm Lovely, the auntie you always wanted, the sister girlfriend you didn't know you needed, honey. You gotta have self love to have self esteem, and here we know that God don't make no junk. So we're gonna sit down, talk about it, and see how we can fix it, baby. Let's do it. Hey guys, this is Lovely with Lovely Esteem, and welcome back to a new episode of the Healing Through Conversations podcast. Today, we're going to be interviewing someone who absolutely just touched my heart when we did our one on one, Miss Alexis Mastrogianni. This woman embodies what it means to pivot, to find community, to connect to family, what it means to go through trials and tribulations and figure out what success looks like on the other end of that. On top of that, she has her own virtual assistance company. She's a co-founder, along with being a brand developer, a marketing strategist, a project manager, and an executive delegator. And that by itself, you would be like, okay, so that's enough, right? But she also happens to really specialize in being a mompreneur, like understanding that family is so important to her and her faith is so important to her, and what that looks like in building success and how you bring your family along with you, and what it looks like to go through trials and tribulations within your relationships and still talk about it and be open about it and bring it with you. Like, this is going to be so good. It's going to be so good. I already know it. I hope you
So
guys
good.
enjoy. Hey guys, this is Lovely with Lovely Esteem, and welcome to the Healing Through Conversations podcast. I I sometimes meet people whose spirit is so bright that like it is contagious and it's so energetic. And I think that when you meet another woman who is not only hyping women up, she's teaching you how to be a solopreneur. She's learning herself, and instead of being like that closed off, oh, I have this. She's like, hey, I don't have this. And but you can still come with me if you want. And who also just happens to be a woman who loves her faith, she loves her family, and she loves her community. And she's really open about what it looks like to pivot, because so many of us have had to pivot, but we do it in secrecy. And then when we come back out, we look like such new people. And people are like, well, what happened between step 7 and 24? You're like, oh, well, I did yoga. Right, you did yoga. But today I get to speak to Miss Alex. And let me say this. I was so interested in your story because I love when a woman is still trying to figure out herself, but she is so
hmm
willing to bring us along on the ride. And I
hmm
appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast, but just for being such an honest, wonderful person to talk to. So please introduce us to yourself, Alex.
Yes. Hi. Wow. Well, that was quite the introduction. So thank you so much. Lovely. I'm so happy to be here. And I think, like you said, just from our first conversation, kicking off and just finding a safe space to be able to be honest and vulnerable as women can be incredibly hard in today's day and age, and the day and age of social media and having and wanting everything to look perfect all the time. It's not very often in common that people can be so vulnerable and vulnerable in a healthy way and in a healthy space. So thank you so much for having this and hosting this. I'm really happy to be here. So a little bit about me, just to kind of kick this off here. I am probably the most open book there is when it comes to entrepreneurship, marriage, motherhood. A little background, I have been an entrepreneur for 8 years. Let's just go down the line and, motherhood as well, about to be 8 years a mom. I actually have three amazing kids, which is my pride and joy, on top of the fact that I've also been with my husband for 13 years. So it's crazy to hear that because I actually just turned, let me say just, let me not say just, but I
Okay.
turned 30 recently. Okay. And so a lot of experience in years, and I would say roles in my life that really just required me to almost break apart to come back together in a very healthy way. Whether it was things that I had learned from my parents or things that I had learned from society or culture, I really feel like God allowed me in these years to really be broken in certain places to almost become this like beautiful mosaic that He's crafting me to be because I think we all are always going to be a work in progress, and I'm very open about that. But I am really proud to share those moments because I believe it's what makes us human. And I also believe it's what allows for healing and community to happen between us women. So yeah, that's just, a little bit of tad about me before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, you know?
No, but like think about what you said. That wasn't even a little bit. Okay, like
I
that's
know.
a little bit. Like this is the great thing about being like I always say when you are the kind of person who can have a conversation without having to think about it, like when
Yeah.
you're that honest with yourself, which
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection is so huge and
Yeah.
self-awareness is so huge, but it's not
Yeah.
encouraged, right? It's
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
want everybody to think the same. I want everybody to move the same, everybody wear the same thing. Like if you're an
Mm-hmm.
individual, why are you trying to be different? You need to look like everybody else, talk like
Yeah.
everybody else,
Yeah.
and realizing that your family has to look different because it's your family. You have you
Yeah.
and your spouse coming together, two different backgrounds, different
Yeah.
understanding of what it looks like to be in a marriage. What does it look
Yeah.
like to be parents? And we're
Yeah.
coming together and we're supposed to be like happy every day.
No.
Maybe I don't like me every day. I want to
Yeah.
I want to sit me in the corner sometimes, you know?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you know what? I think it's what it is for me is I was raised in, well, I'll give a little bit of background. My mom is Italian and German, and my dad is Dominican and Greek. And I was born here in America. So I come from very, like, a mixed background of, like, my mom's side of the family is very, very, let's just say it, white. And my dad's side of the family is very cultured, very different ideals of like what family life is supposed to look like, how you're supposed to raise, how you're supposed to talk, how you're supposed to act, right? Something that I had always struggled with was that I was born very fair skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, but my family looked very different. Like my brother literally looks like he just came straight out of the DR. Brown hair, brown eyes, tan skin. Like I didn't get no melanin in me. Like I am just as white as can be. And I remember like even at family gatherings, like it was always really hard for me because I felt like I was too white for my family, but then also I was too maybe Latina and cultured for my friends that I was raised around, which were a lot of like white, people maybe of different backgrounds. And so taking just even from like when I was a kid, those lessons of finding myself and who I am and where I belong and what's for me and what's my role, especially being the firstborn and the
Mm,
oldest sister and taking on a lot of responsibility, it really crafts your perspective on how you encounter the different situations that life throws at you. And I think that in this day and age, taking all of that and applying it, it has helped me so much because I'm realizing that I don't have to look like everybody else. I don't have to be like everybody else. What makes my family unique is just the thing that makes my family unique. And that's something to be proud of. And I think that's why it's so important that we share our different perspectives on life and how we treat others and how we care for others and how we even approach just different situations, whether it's our marriage or our parenting or even entrepreneurship, because at the end of the day, there's someone out there just like you going
mm,
through the same exact things that you're going through, but maybe your perspective can change like their whole life. Like it can change everything in a moment in time just by being bold enough to share your story. And I think that's something that I have really honed in on that I was not always confident in for a very long time because for me, I always associated failure with shame. I associated, like messing up with like you're the worst because I did grow up in a very like religious background to
mhm,
where it was like, oh, you sinned and you this and you that. So I always innately was just always so strict on myself. Like I was always like, you have to be the best, you have to be the nicest, you have to be everything. And if you mess up, that's it, it's game over. Like your life is done. And I was like, I was the drama. I was all the drama. Okay, I was all the
Bring the
drama.
drama. Bring
You
the
know,
drama. That's what we
all the
have to
freaking
be.
girl. I was just like, and it's so funny now that my daughter, my old, it's so funny. My daughter, she's about to be 8 years old, and she is all the drama girl. And let me tell you, I am like, I don't know where she gets it from. And my mom looks at me like, girl, are you freaking, look at yourself, like, look in the mirror because it's
I'm
all
not
you.
looking. I'm not
Yeah,
looking.
you're just like in denial. But yeah, like I just think that when you can really allow yourself to almost just embrace the uniqueness of how God crafted us and realize that we really are all a part of this like tree of life that I like to look at it
Yeah.
and different branches and different things. Like it's time for us to start embracing that. It's time for us to really take a stand in that because it really does change the world that we live in. And I really do believe that it allows us to fulfill like our God-given purpose. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, and one of the things that you and I agreed on totally is trying to figure out a way to fail forward, right? Because that's what
Yeah.
we're all doing. We're all failing
Yeah.
forward throughout life. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that like failure is that's the lesson. That's
Yeah.
literally the lesson.
Yeah.
And you fail in every part of your life because we're all learning how to grieve these different losses, the person that you thought you were going to be, the relationship you
Yeah.
thought you were going to have, the kind of relationship you thought you were going to have with your children, with your
Oh
parents,
yeah.
and our ideas of what we thought we were going to look like, the way we were going to wear our hair, how we were going
Yeah.
to come into these new jobs and take all this
Yeah.
education that we have. And then we had to
Yeah.
learn how to pivot really fast. So I
Yeah.
think that one of those, like a lot of that failure, is what makes you a great leader, right? It's what helps you
Mm-hmm.
understand the plight of another person. It's what brings in
Absolutely.
compassion and resilience. It's what brings in,
Absolutely.
it builds your self-esteem, your self-worth,
Yeah.
and helps you understand what your value is without money, right?
100%.
And I think that that's one of those things that when you and I spoke, especially within our relationships, the value
Yeah.
that we bring to our relationships that have nothing to do with money and the
Yeah.
understanding that we have. Like, let's just go back. So tell us about
Yeah.
you coming back to Florida.
Oh God.
Yes. And what it was
Uh,
like to help your family really connect to the family business, but help you build yourself
yeah.
as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. So crazy enough, I hated the idea of entrepreneurship. Like you were not going to catch me being an entrepreneur. Why? And we want to get really real. The reason why was because my dad was an entrepreneur in many facets, and I saw a lot of success, but I saw a lot of failure.
Mm-hmm.
I saw so much failure to the point that we had seen our house go under foreclosure. We had gotten kicked out of our house. We were bouncing house to house. I was in three different schools, the 3 different years of middle school. It led to a lot of stress. I mean, it ultimately led to financial stress and other things that had happened in my parents' relationship that led to divorce. Like, and that led to a lot of brokenness in my family. Like, it was just like entrepreneurship, failure, hurt, pain, no go for me. I was like, I want stability. I want peace. I don't want anything to do with this. And haha, God always looks at us and laughs right at our plans. So
Oh, he
funny
laughs
enough,
so
yeah,
much.
he literally was like, oh, you thought, Alexis, you actually thought. So I went to college. I did the whole thing. I was like, I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to get my big girl corporate job. And I was in the process of doing that. I actually went to school to work in the nonprofit industry. I wanted to be in social services. I wanted to give back. I have always had a servant leader heart. Like I was just always service first mentality. And so on my my last semester of college, I was like, oh my God, I had my plan. We're getting married. I'm engaged to my fiance, who I've been with for years. I have the best relationship. And your girl gets pregnant. My last semester of college. And I was like, oh my God, no, like my life is over. I can't believe like everything that I had planned immediately fell apart. And I remember at that time, number one, feeling so much shame because also something around like my upbringing of being a Christian was, oh, you're having sex before marriage. Now you're pregnant out of wedlock. Now you're like, I was starting to feel all this guilt and shame already. And nobody was telling me this. It was just myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led to, oh my God, your career. What are you going to do? You just are about to graduate. What about your big girl corporate job? Like, what is going on? So, whatever. Me and my husband were like, we're moving back to South Florida. I went to UF in Gainesville, moved back to South Florida. And soon enough, I joined the corporate world. I did not tell them I was pregnant. Thank God I did. I don't know if I would have gotten the job, to be honest with you. So I was just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. Get the job, hate it, hate it. I'm like, I went to college for this. Like, I don't understand. Like, I hated it. And at that time, my dad prior had owned three Latin dance studios in South Florida. And when I went to college, he actually ended up selling them, got rid of it. But when I came back, he was like, hey, Alexis, like, we still have this opportunity. You could open up a franchise and jump into business. I was like, first of all, the man that I have the most trauma with business is telling me that I should open up a business. And I'm over here like I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Are you joking me right now? Like, oh my God. And my husband is my number one supporter. We have been together through it all. And he was like, you can do it, Alexis. I have zero business experience, zero. I did grow up as a dancer, so I felt confident to open up a dance studio in the skill set, but I didn't even know how to dance salsa. I didn't even know how to dance bachata. I mean, bachata I knew. Salsa, you will catch. I was like, I don't know. How am I gonna do this? And I was like, you know what? I prayed about it and I said, I'm just gonna take the leap. I literally have nothing to lose because I'm gonna have the support that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. We started the dance studio, brick and mortar, huge space. Like it was wild. And 3.5 years later, we literally were running the Latin dance studio. I couldn't even imagine that it was actually happening because I learned the thick of everything. I think imagine being, 22 years old, you're pregnant, you're about to have your first kid, you're just recently married. Like all of these new beginnings are happening at one time, and it was probably the most stressful time of my life. But I really feel like that's where God was just molding me. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
literally molding me to be the woman that I am today. And I would have not been able to be this person that I am today with the faith that I have, with the perseverance that I have, with the resilience that I have, with the skills that I have, if I did not make that first yes. And that was what we did. We had the dance studio. In the midst of having that dance studio, I had two kids. So it was literally like raising a baby with two other babies and with a baby marriage. Like it was wild, Lovely. Like to say the least, like it was wild. I think I didn't have any support either because I was 22 years old. None of my friends were having kids. None of my friends were pursuing entrepreneurship. Let me tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was lonely. It was so lonely. And I remember like praying to God, like, God, please, like, give me help, like, help me, help me, help me. And I had nobody. I literally just had my dad, my husband, and we had a partner that was supporting us in the meantime. But it was really just myself. And it was probably the hardest time of my life. And so I always say, like, I'm so grateful for those years, even though they were the hardest years. But it really is the foundation that essentially set the platform for where I am today and what it is I'm doing today.
Yeah. But you know what? One of the things I want to say that I always believed, like I'm one of those people who really, I don't believe in struggle love, but I also understand that when you are designed for and
Mm,
destined to have,
hmm.
you have to build skill sets almost in like 3x. Like your life
Oh
moves
yeah.
so fast, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the lessons that you learn feel so intense because normally it would take 5 years to learn, 10 years
Oh
to
yeah.
learn, but you're learning these things so fast. And because you can retain it, God doesn't slow down for you. He's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't build you to like to think
Yeah.
on it. Like this is what I
Yeah.
need you to do right now. Do it. And
Yeah.
you're like, but I just woke up. Do it. But I don't know what I'm doing. Do it. You're like, okay, you're bullying
Yeah.
me. Bullying is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
okay. It's not okay. I used to tell my mom,
Yeah.
I said, when I said my relationship with God is really like a HAHA laugh, not an LOL. There's
Mm-hmm.
really no
Mm-hmm.
LOL because when I make a
Mm-hmm.
plan, he goes, "Oh, that's so sweet."
Yep.
And
Yep.
then he pushes that. Like he pushes it all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
that your faith has a lot to do with your resilience because
Yeah.
and I was having a conversation with a woman before, and I said to her that faith and fear walk together so much. And she said, I
Mm-hmm.
never thought of it like that. I said, you have to have
Mm-hmm.
faith that when you walk through the fear on the other side of the door, there will be the answer you're looking for, a solution, a clue. I said,
Yeah.
but your faith really, you walk with that because you sometimes
Yeah.
need fear to push you because
Mm-hmm.
we get stagnant, we get content
Oh
because
yeah.
it looks like what I, like you said, I thought I was going to have this big girl
Yeah.
corporate job, but
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't your path. That he didn't want you to be a follower. He
No.
needed you to be a
No.
leader because you were going to open up doors for other
Yeah.
people. And when
Absolutely.
we talk about opening up doors, let's talk about what you did after you left the
Yeah.
studio. Because when you turned the lights off, you didn't have
Yeah.
a lot of time to keep the lights off.
No. Oh my God. No, not at all. Well, 3.5 years after running the dance studio, COVID hits. So I know that was probably the biggest turning point for so many people. And I was faced with a really a heavy decision of, which also I will say at the time, things were already starting to go at a really like south pace with the studio. And I was so stressed out. We actually winded up moving in with my mom. And mind you, it was me, my husband, two kids, my mom, and my two brothers living in her two-bedroom house. Okay. And COVID hits. And I said, wow. So now my life is really coming to an end. And I was like faced with the decision of closing the doors on something that I built, that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into, all of my money, all of my time. I sacrificed time with my kids. Like I sacrificed time with my family. I sacrificed time with my friends. Like I really gave it all up. And it was like close the door on this dream that I thought that I was meant to have forever, or step out in faith and trust God that whatever is next, He's going to align it and He's going to have it laid out perfectly for me to just step into and walk. And I'll never forget, I literally, it because it was a franchise, the franchise owner was asking, like, hey, are you going to renew? Are you not? What are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I just need peace and quiet. And now, mind you, we're locked up in the house. Nobody can leave. So I said, okay, great. I'm just going to go to the patio. So I remember it was super late at night. I went to the patio. There's like twinkle lights everywhere because my mom made the patio super cute. So we could at least have some type of like Zen place. And I remember I just like turned on worship music. And I remember I just started crying and I was like, God, I am going to be silent and I am not moving from this spot until I'm getting goosebumps, but until you tell me what I need to do. I am not moving from this spot because I don't want to carry this burden anymore. I don't want to keep doubting. Like whatever it is that you want me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I will never forget, I literally sat there for like an hour and I was like just like waiting and I'm like crying and waiting and waiting. And I kid you not, Lovely, I heard him so clearly and he said, I need you to let it go because what I have for you is going to be so much greater. And that was it. And I was like,
Get
you couldn't give me like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Like, you just have to give me A, B. Like, what? And I was like, I'm not gonna second guess it. I asked you to give me an answer and you did. I'm gonna do it. And I had to have the big girl conversation with the franchise owner. Like, I had to have all these conversations. I had to tell my instructors. I had to tell the students that had like fallen in love with the studio. Like, I had to do all of that. And that was so hard. But it allowed me, again, another step on not looking and framing this as a failure, but saying this is just the next step towards success. This is just a lesson towards what I needed to go to. And that was where I had switched and I had pivoted into the online space. And I basically took everything it was that I learned at my dance studio and built a coaching business out of it. And I started doing brand development for women in business. I started doing marketing, social media, how to build your business from scratch because I did all of that. and I fell in love. I literally fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with the true transformation and impact that was happening on a one-on-one level because it wasn't just business breakthroughs, it was personal breakthroughs that were happening
Yes.
for business. It was just like, wow, I really can do this. I actually can be successful. I actually can be a mom and run a company and do well, you know? That was something that I feel like was really taboo because there was always like this negative connotation of being a mom and being a business owner. It's like you
Yes.
can't do both. You shouldn't do both. Your kids need you or your business needs you. And there was always like this like negative regard to it. And I was like, no, we're changing the narrative here. Like, because I'm telling you that if God had told me that this is what I'm supposed to do with my life, then I'm gonna do it. And I think that God loves me enough because I like to say I'm one of his favorites that he would not let me walk down a path and go down this way if it was not meant for me. And mind you, obviously that comes with discernment, that comes
Yes.
with spending time, that comes with a lot of things, but it truly comes with that spirit of faith and knowing that even when the fear arises, my faith is greater and my faith is
Yes.
going to get me to that next level because I love that scripture in the Bible that it talks about how he brings us from glory to glory to glory. And I just felt like this was like one of those glory steps that I was
Mhm.
taking. And it really just opened the doors for me to just really discover like this whole new online space of giving me the flexibility of being with my kids when I needed to, but also allowing like my true heart's passion to serve women, like for it to come to fruition, you know?
Yes. No, and I love that because my mom always laughs because my favorite book in the Bible is the book of Job, right? Like because
Mm,
it is me to a T. Like I don't question a lot. Insanity is always happening around me. My husband is like,
yeah,
"Did you pay attention?" I'm like, "They didn't call my name. It has nothing to do with me. Keep it moving. All right, let's
yeah,
keep it
yeah,
moving." Like,
yeah.
okay, so we're not going to have that anymore. All right, we won't have it anymore. What's the next thing that we need to do,
Yeah.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
my thing is my I wasn't put here to look back. Like
Yeah.
and I wasn't put here to live in regret. And it doesn't mean that it
Yeah.
doesn't affect you, right? We
Correct.
all have moments where we really need to grieve because we have to
Yeah.
let go of all of that anger, all of that denial, the
Mm.
bargaining that we do to stay in a space that we're not supposed to be in, the
Yeah.
blessings that we're blocking because we refuse to let go, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if I'm supposed to do these things, I'm up 3:30 in the morning. We had this conversation. All of
Mm-hmm.
my ideas, all of my ancestral conversations happen at
Yeah.
3:30 in the morning. And if you're a spiritual person, you know that that's the time.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, God, you listen, I'm having a hot flash, you talking. Now I'm awake. I can't write. My eyes closed. Like it's too much
Yeah.
going on at one time.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel like that's the moment when you have to have discernment and
Mm-hmm.
say, listen, I am uncomfortable right now, but if I
Yeah.
listen to this, if I do what I'm supposed to, if I
Yeah.
walk in the light that I was born in,
Yeah.
there's going to be greatness on the other side. That doesn't mean it's not hard because I think when
Correct.
people hear you talk about your relationship with God or hear you talk about the praise, they always think, oh,
Yeah.
so everything's good. Oh, no, 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 no,
Mm-mm.
no, no, no. Things
Mm-mm.
are burning. There are fires
Mm-hmm.
happening. We're just trying to figure
Everywhere.
out, like, okay, so if we just maneuver here, okay, so that's, did you see that? That was an arrow. Walk
Yep.
this way. Here's a little water, put it out. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's like the confirmation that a lot of us look for. It's not a clear, like, just, hey,
No.
Alex, this is what you're gonna do. It's like, all right,
No.
so now I'm on the internet. How
Yeah.
do I maneuver my life through the internet? How do I
Yeah.
present myself in a way that still makes me feel closer to my faith, that still
Yeah.
keeps my family close to me, but
Yeah.
also allows me to help these women out because that is my calling. That's something that
Yeah.
I hear, I dream about that when I sleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how has that brought your family closer together? How has this
Yeah.
adventure brought your family closer together?
Well, before it brought us closer together, it broke us apart. So let's start
Let's
there
talk about it.
because
Let's talk about it.
let's start there. Well, I will say is I despise when people glorify entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship is anything but the glory. in the times where you're really building. I feel like it's almost like 80% grind and 20% glory. And
I
I
would say it
think,
was less than that because
yeah, maybe less, maybe 10, maybe 5%, let me tell you, okay? Because yes, there's meaning and impact, but it takes a really courageous person to have and make the sacrifices that you need to as an entrepreneur. And there's healthy sacrifices and then there's not so healthy sacrifices. And that is why I say that before my family got closer together, it 100% fell apart. So, me, I am a high achiever. I am a hard worker. I am laser focused. Like when I have a mission, I am in it. And that 110% really overshadowed a lot of things that I feel as a mother, as a wife, I overlooked. I wasn't paying attention to the little details of putting my phone away so I could spend more time with my husband. I wasn't, paying attention to cutting off my meeting time so I can actually put my kids to bed at night and give them a hug and kiss. Like I wasn't doing and laying down certain boundaries that I needed to as a business owner. And those little things add up. They just add up in your life, in your relationships. And for me, it was specifically my marriage. Me and my husband have been together for 13 years. We met I was 16, he was 19. We actually met in youth group. I was a youth group leader at church. We were at a drama practice. We were literally doing something for like youth group that we were going to have that night. And he was like the new kid on the block that came in and I was like, mine. I was like, cold. I don't know who he is, but he's so cute. And yeah, I'm gonna date him. And I remember he was in denial. He was like, she's so young. Oh my God, her parents are gonna call the cops on me. Like, there's no way. Like, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Lo and behold, here we are 13 years later. Okay, I always tell him, I'm like, I told you you were gonna marry me. I already told you from the beginning. And I'll never forget that we just had gone through so many life transitions, getting together at so young. Again, another thing people like to glorify, like, oh, we're high school sweethearts, all the things. I'm like, no, actually, it's not all cute. It's not all happy, love, and giggles. And the reason why is because you are constantly changing and progressing as a person. What I wanted at 16 is not the same thing that I want now at 30. What he wanted at 19 is not the same thing that he wants now when he's about to be 33 years old, right? And are you willing to make the sacrifices, to make the changes, to do the work that it is, number one, to grow yourself, but also support your partner in their growth and where they're going and do it together, grow together. And that was something that I feel like was really hard for us for like a really long time because I didn't have like the healthiest vision of what a relationship and marriage looked like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
growing up. He did not have that either. He has a whole backstory. His parents were divorced really long. He had experienced a bunch of things, abuse, like the whole thing. And so for us, it was almost like these two just like really passionate, loving, childlike spirits that just really were committed to making it work because whatever we experienced, we wanted better. And when we went through entrepreneurship, because he as well had his own business, we were constantly just like not prioritizing things like this whole journey of this is what this gives you and time freedom and all those things. That was not what's happening. I was working 28/7, 28/8, like whatever was not real is what I was doing.
Yeah.
Same thing for him, having a full-time job, having kids, having all these things. And, little by little, the cracks just started to happen. This whole perfect aesthetic of life that I had of, yeah, I've been with my husband forever and I have these beautiful kids. The cracks started to show, maybe not in front of people, but they were happening behind the scenes. The arguments that were happening behind the scenes, the crying that was happening behind the scenes, like the mental breakdowns that were happening behind the scenes. And I remember just like begging God, like, God, you gave me this business. You gave me this husband. You gave me these kids. Why am I going through this right now? Like, this is not what I asked for. This is not what I wanted. I want peace. I want everyone to be happy. I want us to experience financial and time freedom. Like I want us to have these things. Why is this happening to me? And I remember realizing that God gives us the free will to do as we please.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we always try to blame and pinpoint things like God gave this to me, but we made the decisions in between.
Yep.
And a lot of the decisions that I was making in between, a lot of the decisions that he was making in between were not decisions that God would have wanted for us in our lives, in our family, in the way that we spoke to each other, in the way that we treated each other, in the way that we handled our arguments, in the way that we handled our life situations. Um, and again, we were only doing what we knew and doing the best that we could. But ultimately, after being together for 10 years, 11 years, we separated. We winded up separating for 6 months. And I remember like thinking, this is it because he had moved out of the house. I'm at home still, with my three kids now. At that time, we had our third baby, and he was only maybe 7 months old, 6 months old. So there was just so much happening. And I remember feeling so broken and feeling like if this is what entrepreneurship is, if this is what I don't want it. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want it because my family is now being torn apart because we have not been prioritizing nor putting in the work nor putting in the guardrails that
Yeah.
we needed in order to make sure that our family prospers first. Because for me, it was success first. It was money first. Because, oh, if I have the money and the success, then my family will prosper. But that's not what it is. Because family and taking care of your family is truly, like, I think the most honorable form of worship. And when you do not prioritize your family unit, your marriage, like your stomping ground, everything else will fall apart. Because guess what? You're either gonna lose one or the other. You have to learn how to integrate successfully. Because I have said to trash with balance. I don't believe in balance anymore. I'm like to trash with it, let me tell you, okay? No, it's about integration. It's about
Yeah.
prioritization. It's about allowing for things to happen. And so through those 6 months, we both did major work individually, as a couple, went to therapy, started going more disciplinedly to church, started just seeking out the right people around us, cutting off people around us, changing things in our businesses, like making sure that we were going to get things going. And thankfully, God is good. And we were able to do what we needed to do to reconcile. And things were great for maybe another 5 months. And then separation again. And I was like, oh, the second, I was like, that's it. I was like, that's it. Like, I'm like, it's game over. I just saw my earphone just drop. I started going crazy over here. Like it's like life is over at this point. And I was like, Alexis, you can't keep doing this. Giovanni, you can't keep doing this. And you know what? It was humbling for me because I feel like I got on my high horse too quick and I shared
Mhm.
our story on social media. I shared like things went viral, like millions of views, like all these things. And I'm like, look where we are now. Look,
He said,
no.
humble you.
Yeah.
Ha.
Let me knock you down real quick for you to realize that this is not about you and that you got a lot more work to do, sister. You think it's all about this man, oh, this man, this man, this man. That us women, we like to do that a lot. And we like to be like, oh, it's him, this man, blah, 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 this man, blah, blah, blah. No, let me tell you something right now. Before you can ever address your man, you need to address yourself. You need to look at yourself, you need to check yourself, and you need to analyze what is going on in here before
Mm.
you ever go over there. Because what's that? There's another scripture in the Bible that talks about before you, pull the needle out of that person's eye, take the plank out of yours. And like that's literally, I think, what was happening in that situation. Because for me, I was always like, yeah, he has his issues, but so do I. Was I being the wife that I needed to be? Was I being the woman of God that I needed to be? Was I even taking care of myself like I needed to? The answer is no.
Yeah.
I let myself go. I wasn't working out. I wasn't taking care of myself. And so innately, when you're not happy with yourself, how are you going to be happy with your spouse? How are you going to be happy in your business? How are you going to be a successful leader? You're not setting the playing field for what it should be? And so I really feel like in that time and in that period, God was really just working on me. And he's like, Alexis, this is a never ending story. This is a never ending journey
Never
of
ending.
development. You need to remember that this is never ending. And it's not to say don't share the wins, don't share the successes, don't share the progress, but it's to always remain humble because you never know at any moment in time what can happen. And on top of the fact of that is where the faith comes in of me clinging so strongly to God and making him my center and my rock and my stomping ground. Because at the end of the day, he is always going to be 100% of what I need. My spouse is never going to be 100% of what I need. I am never going to be 100% of what I need. My kids are never going to be. My business is never going to be. And when we start to idolize those things around us and start to like place that prioritization, start to place this like worthiness almost and value, you are steady on your way to a downfall. And that was something that I was like, God, please, I don't want to keep relearning this lesson. Help me.
Let me sit it down.
And
Let
let
me
me,
sit it down.
I was like, let me just stay quiet for a little bit and just do the work because I can't do this a third time.
No, but you know what? Thank you so much for being so open and honest. And this is the
Yeah.
conversation we had off, like we had
Yeah.
this off, right?
Off camera. Yeah.
And for me, this is so huge because I talk about infidelity and
Yeah.
confidence rebuilding, right? And I talk from a very personal place. Like I'm not one of those people who's like, and it was been great. Now I am also a childhood sweetheart. We've been dating
Yeah.
since 13 and 14. Okay, so you
Crazy.
know nothing. No,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yep.
You know how many times I've changed my hair since we met?
Yeah.
Like that's how many times my hormones have changed. How many times my ideals have
Facts.
changed. You know what I mean? So, but
Truth.
also understanding that at 13 and 14, you can't even assimilate to what you don't even know what the relationship is going to turn into because you don't know what a
Yeah.
relationship is. And
Yep.
also coming from a background of, divorced parents or
Yeah.
unhealthy relationships and trying
Yeah.
to build a relationship off of nothing, like off of like the
Yeah.
Cosby's and
100%.
Full House and like you're just
Yep.
trying to figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And I think that no matter where you come from within your faith journey, a lot
Yeah.
of faith has to do with you learning about yourself, you
Yep.
having a greater connection with yourself and your spirit
Yep.
and your body and your mind and your emotions
Mm-hmm.
and learning how to have more assertive conversations with yourself about where you are
Yeah.
today and
Yep.
realizing that we don't like ourselves 90% of the time, like that
100%.
10% that we're like, oh, you are it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other time you're like, oh, well, you could have wore this, or you could have done that, or why did
Yeah.
you take this, or why did you spend that? There's so much of
Yep.
that. Why would you think that that would get on somebody else's nerves when it gets on your nerves as well?
100%.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I loved how you really, in your mind, flip the script. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I keep pointing my finger, but all of these other fingers keep pointing back at me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe like because you can't, like, when you're talking to people that
Yeah.
looks strange, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what do I need to do so that Alexis feels good about herself? Like, yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful that you love me. It's wonderful that my children love me. Mama,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you love me.
Yeah.
But I don't like me. Like, you can love yourself
Yeah.
and not like yourself, right?
Yep.
I am
100%.
so big into that. And I'm like, okay, so how can we say, like, how do we learn to like ourselves again? What does that look
Yeah.
like? Right. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of that has to do with being honest with
Yep.
yourself. And not
Mm-hmm.
only being honest with yourself, being raw with yourself. Like, hey, I
100%.
failed. I didn't like the fact that I failed. But I
Yeah.
failed because I didn't do A, B, and C, or because it wasn't for me. And realizing that
Yeah.
every win isn't for you,
Yep.
you know? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that, like, what you're talking about and how vulnerable you are with your conversations and with your story, that's what's helping heal other people. It's what's bringing people
Yeah.
closer to their faith because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you can be in the church and still talk about this,
100%.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not supposed to talk about
Mm-hmm.
this. You ain't.
Mm-hmm. No, let me tell you, I I actually for many, many years after being raised in the church and all the things, I had experienced major church hurt when I was actually right after me and Giovanni started dating. because I had experienced a lot of shame, and guilt because I was the girl who was the youth leader, but I was also the girl who then started dating this older boy, and then we had sex before marriage. And instead of dealing with it in a light of compassion and love and let's nurture you and let's help you guys set healthy boundaries and it was through a light of you're a sinner, you're
Yeah,
shameful,
damnation.
you're damnation, condemnation. And I was
Mhm.
like, not even Jesus condemns me, okay? And you're out here condemning me. Get out of town. So I was like, and it was hurtful because it was a church that I grew up in years of my life. Like when my parents got divorced, that's where I was. Like when so many things were happening, that's where I was. So it was so painful. And I left the church for a while. I actually went to college. I tried to see if I could go somewhere, and I just always felt this like shame and guilt on me. And it was terrible. And it wasn't until I like came back down home to South Florida and I found this incredible home church in this place called Heartway. It was beautiful. It was so healing. And then even after that, when me and my husband were going through our separation, we actually now go to a church called History Makers. It was like night and day. It was night and day because there was finally people who were on the pulpit that were being just as honest and vulnerable as they teach us to be.
Mhm.
And it really was inspiring to me because it allowed me to say, wait a second. Actually, like I really truly believe that which would with whatever you want to call it, whether it's like evil spirits, the devil, the enemy, whatever you want to call it, there's always something that is going to try and block you and shame you into a
Absolutely.
story and testimony that can literally set so many people free. And
Hmm.
until you literally just say, I am not going to let this be my story. I am not going to let this shame define me, this story that I am so much more than that. There is
Hmm.
such freedom in that, that when you can let that go and release and then openly share without guilt, without shame, because that's not what God has called us into. Like He literally has not called us into guilt, shame, fear. He's called us into love, grace, mercy, peace. Like He's called us into all of those things. And when you really allow and just surrender, that was the biggest thing for me. It was so hard for me to surrender. It was so hard for me to release control of my story, to release control of what the next steps were, to release the control over my marriage, my kids, my business, everything. And I just feel like the entire time, God was just like, if you just open your hands, you're now in a space of receiving. How can you receive what I have from you when your hands are constantly closed? And when I felt that, I was like, oh my God. Like,
Like all these years. But you know what? But again, remember we talk about faith all the time.
yeah,
There's certain things that you're going to have to go through because he needs you to
yep,
understand how important this lesson is, how
yep,
important this blessing
100%.
is. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we are handed so much greatness
Yep.
that we forget about compassion, we forget about discernment, we
Mm-hmm.
forget about mercy, we forget about grace.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're on our high horse of I'm
Yep.
always favored. I'm always,
Yep.
and then when it knocks you down, it literally kills your spirit. When
Yeah,
it's something about
100%.
like, and the thing about faith is that when it hurts, it pulsates. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. But the
Mm-hmm.
minute that you are down, it's like there's this different kind of light, and it
100%.
allows you to see, it allows you to hear people different, it allows you to see people different,
Yep.
it allows you to
Yep.
walk different, and then
Yep.
you get to have discernment on if you're going to stay on this path or if you're going to
Yep.
go back to your high horse. And usually,
Yep.
when you go back to your high horse, he knocks you down again, but it hurts worse the next time. And you're like, you
Mm-hmm.
really didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
chop me like that, Lord. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he like, but you didn't hear me the first time, and then you didn't hear me the second
Yeah.
time. You only get three
Yeah.
times with me, girl. And you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's so wild because the thing is that something that, always resonated with me and something that I'm always really grateful for is that although my parents had their downfalls, they were extremely loving, supportive parents always.
mm,
And my dad always was loving and supportive and caring. He only told me how amazing, incredible, beautiful, all the things that I was since the day I was born. And I think that allowed me to have a really healthy and open relationship to what having a father in Jesus looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Because a good parent, a good father, just a good source for you to look to allows for discipline to happen, allows for mistakes to happen, allows for you to kind of walk through these things, but they never leave you stranded,
Yep.
you know? And that was something that I was like, you know what, God, you really let me kind of go through a lot of these things, but it molded me, it shaped me, it brought me to this place that you needed me to be. And all the meanwhile, you never left me. And that's something that I feel like a lot of us struggle with because we may not have had someone like that in our lives to
Yeah.
actually be with us through thick and thin and not leave us and make us feel lonely and shame us and all of these things, you know? And so I'm just so grateful because I feel like every single time that these things, that these lessons happen, it's just another reminder of you're not done with me yet and you're still molding me because that means that you're just bringing me again to something greater. So
Leveling
whatever
you up.
I'm at right
Yep.
now,
He's leveling
that
you
means
up with
that
the blessing.
literally there's something going on here that I need to either let go, that I need to learn, that I need to, and if
Mm-hmm.
we can just look at life's situation, whether it's divorce or separation, or maybe it's failure in your business, or maybe you're struggling as a parent, it doesn't matter. Like maybe you're going through depression, anxiety, stress, whatever that is. If you can open your eyes to look at it through a lens of what is this season here to teach me? And
Mm-hmm.
what do I need to either change, let go of, or even step into for me to go to that next level and walk on that next journey? We would honestly just look and live just such a better life because our perspective no longer becomes self-centered and like woo who woos me victim mentality. It becomes one of like this victor, like this person who's going to conquer, this person who is going to, adventure and get to greater and greater and glory to glory and go from like the valleys to the mountaintops, right? Like it allows us to open our eyes and our perspectives. And I just think that if we really can just allow for ourselves to embrace the journey, we're going to get to the destination that like our purpose is meant to fulfill, you know? It
Yeah.
just takes us surrendering and letting go, but making sure that we're taking discerning action every single day,
Hey.
being
Hey.
intentional every single day, you know?
Discernment is discernment and comprehension, right? Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us, we listen to respond, we don't listen
Yeah.
to comprehend what's happening. And that's in
Yeah.
everything, in body language. That's when
Yep.
you walk into a space and the energy feels off. Like
Yeah.
your intuition is connected to your spirit, and it's so connected to your spirit.
So,
And it will
mm-hmm.
tell you, hey, we don't want to do this. Like, this isn't what we're supposed to
Mm.
be doing. And we usually go, yeah, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
karma kicks in. And the Lord's
Yep.
like, okay, I was trying to protect you from this thing
I
here. And you're like, but Lord, and it's almost too late now. Like now it's too late.
hmm
Now you're like, oh, that's
hmm
the truck? How? Okay. Why? Why? But how I love how ingrained your faith is built in you, but I love how you went on the journey. You realize that I can't take anybody else with me
Mm-mm.
on this faith journey. It has to be
hmm
about me. And I have
hmm
to learn how to download this information so that it makes sense
Yeah.
to me. Because I think
Yeah.
that when we think about faith, we are all like stuck in scripture and we're like, I don't
Yeah.
understand what it says. But it's like, okay, when you read it, what does it
hmm
mean to you? And now
Yeah.
take what it means to you and really apply it to real life, real world
Yep.
problems because
Yep.
everything has happened already. Like we think all this stuff is
hmm
new. It's not new. It's just
Mm-mm.
different faces and different
Yep.
faces, but it's all
Yep.
happened before. So how can I take my faith and turn it into a passion that helps me walk in my purpose? Right. And a
Mm.
lot of that faith comes with consequences and questions.
Yep.
And, you don't always have the answer, but the answer may
Yeah.
be 10 years further up and you just
Yep.
don't know. But that faith that you
Yep.
need to walk that fearful journey looks so
hmm
very different to so many people. Before we even have to go, I want you to
Yeah.
tell us about the retreats that you guys are doing.
Yes, absolutely. So there's actually a retreat that I host every year now. Last year was the first one, so this year's the second. It's called the Serenity Retreat. And this retreat is specifically for mothers. It is a faith-based retreat where we go away Friday to Sunday at a beautiful, luxurious Airbnb, either on the beach or in like a luxury mansion. And we just go away. And the whole purpose of this retreat is not just for you to have time to relax. It's really for you to connect back to yourself, connect back to God, and also connect with other women who are going through the exact same thing that you are, so we can all speak life into one another. And so it's the most beautiful retreat. We hosted it last year, and I was just completely blown away by just the transformations that had come out of it because it was finally a place where people can go, be open, honest, and vulnerable, but leave feeling encouraged with like applicable steps and community to support
Hmm.
them in that transformation. So this year's Serenity Retreat is going to be in September 26th to the 28th, I believe, if I'm wrong. Oh my goodness, probably the 27th to the 28th, 29th. I don't know. We're gonna confirm. But it is a 3-day all-inclusive. We have a chef on board cooking you all your meals. You have downtime, rest time. We have mentorship sessions. We're gonna have a massage therapist there. We're going to be doing all the things for you to fill your cup, come back to your family, feel invigorated, and keep rocking and keep growing as a mother. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about it.
I'm very excited about that. And last but not least, let's talk
Yes.
about this virtual game that you are really kicking
Yes.
butt in, and that you are like you are walking in the glory of this new virtual world, and
Yes.
also helping other women and other moms realize that they
Yep.
can be mompreneurs and still
Yep.
be able to make the money that they need to make.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my bread and butter business is Virtual Integrity Partners, and we are a virtual assistant agency. And I like to say it very simply like this: we are high level assistance for high achieving entrepreneurs. And essentially, we service entrepreneurs in all levels and different aspects of administrative work to creating systems and processes, all the way to digital marketing, social media, YouTube, podcasts, the list goes on and on. And so I love what I do because not only am I serving small business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, but we are also bringing on women, mothers, who can and need flexible income jobs for them to be able to both support their family financially, but also be able to service and be with their families, which is something that I always wish that I had from the get. Okay. And on top of that, to support that effort, I actually run a virtual assistant coaching program with my biz bestie, Nicole Leon, called Simply Virtual. And basically, we teach you and support you if you wanted to be more of an independent virtual assistant to how to create your business, how to build your skill sets, what you need to put in place, how to market yourself. So basically, from start to success, on building your own virtual assistant business, which again, I love because both of them bring true impact and both of them really are about empowering the woman, empowering the mother in a way that's healthy, that can bring balance and not burn out.
See, and this is what I'm talking about. Nicole will be also be on the podcast. I'm just saying, like, I
Yes.
get to talk to. This is my wish for so many things is for us to continue having conversations like this because
Yeah.
one, I believe that it's a blessing. That
Yeah.
first conversation we had, we were like, "Oh my goodness,"
Yeah.
because and it's so interesting because I think as women, when we don't have a chance to talk to each other, we forget
Hmm.
that we are so connected. Like we are the heart,
Absolutely.
we're the color for
Yep.
so many things. And
Yep.
as we were talking, Alex and I'm like, oh yeah, well, such and such. And she'd be like, oh, me too. And then she would be talking about it. And then it just like kept me.
Yeah.
But it's that connection to understand that, like, I may have been like, my oldest is 27, right?
Hmm.
But I'm still a mom. I'm still doing
Yeah.
mom things because I really feel like in
Yeah.
your 20s, you need your parents more than really
100%.
do. Because it's a new,
Hmm.
I always say it's a toddler side of adulthood. Like you
It
need them to like help you
is.
figure out how to keep your head straight while you're like walking
Yeah.
and get, keeping it
Yeah.
together. But I'm also so grateful that you are not only deciding to walk the walk, but talk the talk, right? Because so
Yeah.
many of us live in secrecy for so long.
Mm.
And then
Hmm.
when we finally kind of like come out, people are
Yeah.
like, well, who are you? Like,
Yep. 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 Where did this happen?
you know? And you're like, oh, you missed the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Or, oh, and I think that being honest and being in a space where you not only provide flexibility and faith, but you provide
Hmm.
your whole self. And that is
Yeah.
how how awesome is that? Because that is what
Yeah.
service is. That's what faith is, right? That's what purpose
Hmm.
is. It's
Hmm.
understanding that your whole self has to be
Yeah.
able to surrender for you
Yeah.
to receive the message. And then once you
Hmm.
receive the message, it is your job now to relay that in a way that the congregation understands, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
congregation
Yeah.
just happens to be virtual women, right? Like that's
Yep,
the
yep. It literally does. Literally on my Instagram at It's Life with Lex, you will see my whole life in the sense of obviously I do keep certain things private, but I am a very open book for a reason because I have people who are not mompreneurs on there who are just mothers. I have women of faith. I have people who are not even mothers or entrepreneurs, but are maybe wanting to be a mom one day and they just want someone to talk to about these things that they're thinking and feeling and realizing in their 20s and all these things. So yeah, absolutely. I would love for anybody who's on the same mission to connect with me on my Instagram, on my social media. And if you're a business owner looking for the best support, virtual integrity
you better reach out
partners.com.
there. You
Okay.
better do
You know,
it. Yeah, but
shameless plug.
talk about no, but please talk about the packages because I don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was like
no,
what made
for
me go,
sure.
okay, I love this.
Yeah, yeah, no. So we're not your average virtual assistant firm. And the reason why, number one, we are all US based, amazing, beautiful, creative people that are part of this agency. We have three tiers of expertise that we offer for assistance. The first is our executive partner, so somebody who's a master executor for your day-to-day operations. Our second is our growth partner, someone who could be your ride or die right-hand strategist partner to help you think through and execute all the hard things that you don't want to do. Hashtag digital marketing strategy. Okay. And then expert partner is super niche services, things that are like web design, development, branding, marketing, all of the things that we offer. And again, we offer it on a very, very flexible tier as well. You pretty much pick your tier, and from there, you set a weekly budget that we abide by and work with you on a week to week basis. So that way you can get the work done that you need to get done without breaking the bank and also making sure with true integrity and transparency that your virtual assistant is executing the work that they need to by having some sort of guiding light instead of prepaying bunches of hours that you may or may not be executing. So we really try to keep it as transparent as possible because that is something that has been lost in the VA world for a very long time, and can even still people are who are damaged because they're like, oh my God, you don't know what my
PTSD,
life means. This
PTSD
and me.
people.
And I'm like, we're different. Okay, we're different. I have everything set up for you to trust us. So don't worry. That's why we're called virtual integrity partners.
See, and this is what I love. Okay, we got learning about ourselves. That's what we learned about this
Yes.
podcast. You know what they always say, like the wrap up. We
The
learn
wrap
about
up.
ourselves. We learn from motherhood. We're
Yeah.
learning from being wives, but we're specifically and very niching down and learning about our faith and how it connects
Yeah.
to every single thing that we touch, right? Because
Absolutely.
when you start to really believe, when
Mm-hmm.
you start to understand, and you
Yeah.
start to be grateful for the abilities that you have, like when you wake up in the morning, the fact that you were able to throw your feet over the side of that bed and get up out
Yeah.
that bed and walk into another room,
Yeah.
that is the first blessing. The fact that your eyes are open and you can see what you need to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are
Mm-hmm.
people who right now wish they could do that. But there are also
Wish.
people who can't see who are living a better life than you because they
Yeah.
are stuck in boo-hoo, why me?
Correct.
So I'm always like looking at what it feels like, this like the humanity of life and
Yeah.
how we address each other. And you have such a beautiful spirit. I love your
Thank
energy. It's
you. Thank you,
absolutely
lovely.
contagious. It was contagious before, like it just was.
Yeah.
But I just love the fact that you have spent so much time working on yourself and you understand that it's a legacy that you're building,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that legacy is to have healthy family,
Yeah.
healthy faith, and a healthy
Mm-hmm.
business, but most of
Yep.
all, to have a healthy mom because
100%.
that's what we need so, so much. So, again, give us all your tags.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, everybody follow me. I'm just kidding. Okay, no, seriously, guys, I am so grateful. Thank you so much, Lovely, for having me here, for allowing this space again. I think it's so important as women that we can be open with each other, that we don't walk this life alone. I don't believe any of us were meant to walk this life alone. And so truly get plugged in. If there's like one thing that I can say, it's just get plugged in somewhere. There are so many resources and communities now, probably more than there ever was before, because just because
Ever.
of the awareness of
Hmm.
what is going on in our world and the support that women and mothers and wives need in this day and age. Get connected, get plugged in. Don't walk this life alone. Don't do this journey alone. If you don't know where to start, connect with us. Connect with me on Instagram. Connect with Lovely on Instagram. I'm sure we can bring you somewhere, some resource, especially with the networking amazing group that we have, Entrepreneurs, so that we had met at,
Yes.
to be able to provide you with places and people that can be able to support you in your journey. Because that is the first and foremost. And the second is never lose hope, never give up. Keep your faith grounded in God, because at the end of the day, He is the rock that cannot be shaken. And when we really, really, really need just that last glimmer of hope, He comes through every single time. And other than that, that's it. I'm just so grateful. I'm so excited for how this relationship is going to pursue, and for those who are listening, how you guys are going to feel impacted by it. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Okay, share in the comments, share this podcast with somebody who may need this encouragement, someone that maybe needs to hear this, maybe a wake up check, a reality check, a self check. Okay. But yeah,
Or
absolutely.
find some
Well,
faith. You may just need to find the faith in
you
the.
might need to find the faith.
That's what it is. Because sometimes you need to
Amen.
see people who make like it's the aesthetic. Sometimes is what you're looking for. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
so it's not always. Sometimes it's put together. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
I promise y'all,
Yeah.
something on me probably is holy at every time, and it's not always the Lord. Is all I'm telling you. But we just
So
working it out
true.
here. Like
So true.
it's just working it out. But we so appreciate you guys for being a part of this
Yes.
podcast. We adore the fact that you guys have listened to the full podcast, and we know that you've gotten so much out of it. We
Yeah.
absolutely feel blessed. It was a very, I told y'all it was going to be energetic. But I just really believe in that kinetic energy that we're allowed to
Yeah.
have, and how we're allowed to not only pass like the energy through each other, but we're allowed to touch others on the outside, right? And that is so
Absolutely.
important. So we hope to talk to you guys soon, and we're out.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you found some healing, connection, and joy. Until next time, bye, loves.